Stephen Colbert. I am not someone with a lot of memories, and I don't think that's based on trauma. I think it's just I wasn't paying attention.
Hollywood called her the Scream Queen, the Queen of Screams, an icon of horror films for more than 4 decades. But what lies behind those screams? It's a shattered childhood in the home of 2 legendary movie stars who once loved each other passionately and then came to hate each other to the core. It's years of painkiller addiction that almost took her life. It's the emptiness when her father walked away, her younger brother died young from a drug overdose, and her biological father crossed her name out of his will before passing away. Jamie Lee Curtis was not born to scream at monsters. She screamed because she had seen them in real life, the demons named addiction, loneliness, and the legacy of a famous yet decayed family. But it was from those ruins that she rose, prouder, more genuine, and stronger, to the point that Hollywood had to bow down. At the age of 64, Jamie Lee Curtis won her first Oscar, a reward not only for a performance, but for a lifetime of surviving with fierce courage. In a Hollywood obsessed with youth and perfection, she chose to grow old, to tell the truth, and to live authentically. "Every wrinkle is a victory," she said, with the smile of someone who once died and came back. That is Jamie Lee Curtis, a woman who no longer fears the dark because she is the one who has learned how to light it. Jamie Lee Curtis was born on November 22, 1958, in Santa Monica, California, right in the dazzling heart of Hollywood. Yet her childhood was woven more from the sounds of heartbreak than applause. She was the younger daughter of 2 movie legends, Tony Curtis, born Bernard Schwartz, a Hungarian Jewish man who once captivated the world with his cinematic charm, and Janet Leigh, an actress of Danish, German, and Scots-Irish descent who left audiences breathless in Psycho. From the outside, they seemed the perfect 1950s Hollywood family. But behind the smiling photographs was a home that had already begun to crack before Jamie could even speak. When Jamie was 3, that marriage collapsed. In 1962, Tony and Janet divorced under the relentless glare of the press, turning a child's private heartbreak into a public story. From then on, Jamie's memories of childhood were filled with silent dinners, slamming doors, and the fading figure of a father who never looked back. Tony chased new loves and fame, while Janet struggled to work and raise 2 daughters alone. For Jamie, the price of fame was a childhood without anyone's hand to hold. In a world where people were taught they had to be beautiful to be loved, young Jamie grew up with grayish teeth, a side effect of the medication her mother had taken during pregnancy. Mocked by friends and judged by stares, she learned early to build a cold shell around herself so no one could see the hurt inside. 4 years, 3 different schools, from Harvard Westlake to Beverly Hills High to Choate, and nowhere ever felt like home. The arrival of Robert Brandt, the man her mother later married, was one of the few bright spots in that fractured childhood. He wasn't famous or loud, but he was gentle enough for Jamie to feel, for the first time, the warmth of a real father figure. His calmness made her believe that amid chaos, there could still be peace. Perhaps that's why she once dreamed of becoming a police officer. Someone who could bring order to a world she had seen fall apart too soon. But even as she grew older, the darkness of the past never let go. Her relationship with her biological father, Tony Curtis, never healed. He became a stranger, and then a complete stranger, in his own daughter's memories. In a moment of lost direction, between 2 damaged souls, they once shared a line of cocaine, as if addiction were the only thing that could make them feel close. That fleeting warmth and the lifelong shame that followed stayed with Jamie forever. Out of those ruins, another kind of fire began to burn. Quiet, but resilient. Because only those who grow up in chaos truly know how to create order with their own hands. And for Jamie Lee Curtis, that journey began not with the spotlight, but with a small chance. A doorway where she could turn fear into strength, the first step that led her into the world of cinema. At 19, Jamie Lee Curtis first touched the doors of Hollywood with a small role in the TV series Operation Petticoat, 1977, a remake of the very film that had made her father, Tony Curtis, a star. It was a symbolically charged beginning, but also one heavy with pressure. The daughter of a legend, standing right in his shadow. Jamie believed this would be a solid stepping stone to prove her talent. But life wasn't that simple. The show was canceled after just one season, and the young actress, barely at the starting line, tasted her first failure. The doors of Hollywood seemed to close faster than she could grow accustomed to the spotlight. In that moment of uncertainty, fate appeared in the form of what seemed like a small opportunity, a low-budget independent horror film with a mere $325,000 budget, directed by a young filmmaker named John Carpenter. The project was called Halloween, 1978. No one in the crew believed it would become anything significant. Jamie, an almost unknown actress, was cast as Laurie Strode, a smart, lonely high school girl facing the killer Michael Myers on Halloween night. The film was shot in just 20 days, with simple settings, cheap props, and such a small crew that Jamie had to do her own hair and adjust her own costumes. But within those limitations, she acted with instinct and genuine fear. The kind of fear born from an unsafe childhood. When Halloween premiered, no one expected it to become a worldwide phenomenon. It grossed over $70 million and was hailed as the spark that launched a new era of horror. From an unknown girl, Jamie Lee Curtis became the Scream Queen, the embodiment of cinematic terror. Laurie Strode wasn't just a character running for her life. She became a symbol of female resilience in an era when horror films were still ruled by images of helpless victims. Jamie brought to Laurie an ordinary authenticity. A girl with no superpowers, no miracles, only instinct and intelligence to survive. That's what made audiences believe her, love her, and tremble with her. Halloween would later be preserved by the U.S. Library of Congress in the National Film Registry as a work of significant cultural, historical, and artistic value. That success catapulted Jamie to stardom, but also placed her inside a box Hollywood had built in advance, the Queen of Screams. Between 1980 and 1981, she appeared in The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train, and Halloween 2. Each of those films was a box office success, reinforcing her Scream Queen title and making her name ubiquitous across North American theaters. Yet while audiences thrilled to her screams, Jamie herself began to fear them. Amid the flashing lights, screams, and fake blood, Jamie started to wonder, was she truly living, or just endlessly acting out the same nightmare? On the set of Terror Train, she once sat alone after filming, watching cold smoke drift across the station platform and feeling utterly empty. Those roles had made her famous but trapped her inside a single image. The girl running from monsters. And that was the first moment Jamie Lee Curtis realized. The scream had saved her from the darkness of her childhood. But if she didn't change, it could devour her, just like the monsters she had faced on screen. After a string of victim roles in horror films, Jamie Lee Curtis understood that if she didn't break free, she would be consumed by the very title, Scream Queen. She decided to reinvent herself and step into a territory few thought a horror actress could conquer, comedy. And that pivot, unexpectedly, became the most dazzling counterattack of her career. In 1983, Trading Places was released, a sharp social satire directed by John Landis, in which Jamie played Ophelia, a smart, straightforward prostitute who unexpectedly becomes the ally of two men in a social experiment that swaps the lives of the rich and the poor. Among seasoned comedic actors like Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, Jamie didn't fade into the background. She was both seductive and witty, blending maturity with rebellious energy. Ophelia didn't just save the two men on screen. She saved Jamie herself in real life. The role gave her the chance to prove that behind the scream that once made audiences shiver was a controlled, intelligent actress with impeccable comedic timing. Trading Places became a major hit, grossing over $90 million and earning Jamie the BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actress, the first major honor of her career. For the first time, critics stopped seeing her as the daughter of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, and began recognizing her as a true artist. From that milestone, Jamie Lee Curtis entered a new phase, one where she no longer needed to prove she could escape her past because she simply walked right through it. In 1988, A Fish Called Wanda premiered, and once again, she stunned the audience. As Wanda Gershwitz, a cunning, alluring con artist with a chilling composure, Jamie delivered a kind of sophisticated humor rare in Hollywood. Sharp, elegant, and powerful. The film became a global phenomenon, grossing over $180 million and earning critical acclaim as one of the greatest comedies of the 1980s. Together with veteran actors John Cleese and Kevin Kline, Jamie created a perfect chaos where every character was dangerous, charming, and funny in their own way. The role brought her more nominations and praise, but more importantly, it confirmed this. Jamie Lee Curtis was no longer the scream queen. She was a fully realized actress, someone who could make audiences laugh, fear, or fall silent with just a look. If Trading Places was her graceful slip on a banana peel, then A Fish Called Wanda was her sharp bite back, the revenge of an artist once underestimated. And from that moment on, Jamie Lee Curtis officially broke free from every mold Hollywood had ever tried to confine her in. After A Fish Called Wanda made all of Hollywood reevaluate Jamie Lee Curtis as a true actress, she entered the late 1980s with the composure of someone who had just won a long war, but was also utterly exhausted. In 1989, after years caught in the whirlwind of fame and expectation, Jamie began facing another battle, quieter, but far more brutal: addiction to painkillers after a minor surgery. No one but her knew that the dazzling spotlight was slowly covering a new kind of loneliness, marking the start of 10 silent years of struggle that she would later call her real fight for survival. On screen, from the early 1990s onward, Jamie Lee Curtis experimented with different genres to prove her versatility. In 1990, she starred in Blue Steel, a psychological action thriller in which she played a rookie police officer drawn into a deadly cat-and-mouse game with a deranged stalker. Blue Steel was not a box office hit, but was praised by critics for Curtis's layered performance, strong yet vulnerable, a sharp contrast to the screaming victim image of the previous decade. In 1991, she appeared in My Girl, a tender coming-of-age film where Jamie portrayed Shelley DeVoto, a warm-hearted woman who helps heal a motherless little girl. The film became an unexpected success, grossing over $120 million worldwide, and her role offered a new image: gentle, humane, and nurturing, the perfect counterbalance to her earlier toughness. Audiences realized Jamie could not only frighten or amuse them, she could make them cry. Around this time, she also starred opposite Mel Gibson in Forever Young, 1992, a romantic sci-fi tale about memory and time. The movie was a commercial hit, helping Jamie maintain her box office appeal even as Hollywood was beginning to sideline women over 30. Yet, more importantly, it was when she began to see what fame couldn't hide: the emptiness within. Film sets and interviews became glossy coatings over a growing sense of losing control, the quiet grip of addiction. At the height of her career, Jamie Lee Curtis was living two parallel lives: a star climbing toward new peaks, and a woman quietly sinking into dependency that no one noticed. But even in those dark years, she was unknowingly building the foundation for her rebirth. An inner strength that would later explode when her laughter, tears, and fears finally fused into one defining role. In 1994, she played Helen Tasker in James Cameron's True Lies, a massive action comedy blockbuster starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. At 36, Jamie faced an unprecedented challenge: to transform a bored housewife into a secret warrior, a woman who dares to face fear and reclaim herself. It was a role of perfect balance between clumsiness, charm, and courage. And Jamie delivered it with every survival instinct forged from her stormy childhood. Behind the scenes, she performed most of her own stunts, including the helicopter-hanging scene shot on her birthday, a living declaration. If you've lived in fear all your life, it's time to risk everything to live truthfully. The defining moment came during the striptease scene. Helen, once timid and unsure, awkwardly sheds her layers of fear. Jamie Lee Curtis genuinely slipped and fell mid-scene, but James Cameron kept that take in the final cut. That unscripted fall became symbolic, not of sex appeal, but of the essence of Jamie herself: authentic, imperfect, and never giving up. True Lies exploded at the box office, grossing more than $370 million, and earned Jamie Lee Curtis a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a musical or comedy. It was not only recognition of her performance, but a salute to her courage. An actress unafraid to expose every limit of herself before the camera. Critics praised her for being fearless and real, unmasked and unembellished, the very qualities that still make audiences love her today. Yet behind every peak, there are valleys. Jamie had stumbled before in public flops such as Perfect, 1985, a fitness-themed film dismissed as soulless, and Virus, 1999, a sci-fi disaster derided by critics. To others, those might have been minor career missteps. But to Jamie, who had long carried the fear of abandonment, they reopened the wounds of that left-behind child. Each failure whispered, "Does Hollywood still have room for a middle-aged woman who isn't perfect?" It was in those dim years that Jamie Lee Curtis's true strength was forged. She learned that fame fades, films fail, but an artist's worth lies not in how many times they fall, but in how honestly they rise. That very spirit led her to her great rebirth in the 2000s, when laughter, simplicity, and compassion began to replace the fear of being forgotten. Jamie Lee Curtis entered the new century as if reborn, not only in her career, but in how she saw herself. She understood she could no longer be the action heroine or scream queen of the past. In 2003, Freaky Friday offered a magical chance to reconnect with younger audiences and to heal her own wounded childhood. In the body swap comedy between a mother and her teenage daughter, Jamie played a strict but loving single mom who accidentally switches bodies with her daughter, played by Lindsay Lohan. With charm, restraint, and exuberant energy, she made viewers believe that true understanding between generations doesn't come from words, but from daring to live in each other's worlds. Freaky Friday grossed over $160 million, earned her a Golden Globe nomination, and proved she could win over a whole new generation, even those who had never seen Halloween. Nearly 2 decades later, while many of her peers had long faded from the spotlight, Jamie Lee Curtis returned with Knives Out 2019, Rian Johnson's modern whodunit as Linda Drysdale, a successful, icy, proud daughter in a dysfunctional, wealthy family. With nothing left to prove, Jamie acted through silence and gaze. Every frame radiated steely poise and a hidden tenderness. That elegant frost, only someone who has endured deep pain could convey. Then in 2022, at 64, Jamie Lee Curtis reached the summit she might once have thought beyond her grasp. In Everything Everywhere All at Once, she played Deirdre, a grumpy tax auditor with yellowed hair, a soft belly, and an utterly unretouched face. In a wild multiverse, Deirdre became the rawest, most human presence, a weary woman who still lives, still loves, still tries to understand the world around her. The role won Jamie the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, a triumph not just of craft, but of the courage to be truly imperfect. Alongside acting, Jamie Lee Curtis also proved that words are part of her soul. Since the late 1990s, she has written children's books, gentle stories imbued with kindness and empathy. Many became bestsellers, cherished by children and parents across America. In 2003, she was even nominated for a Grammy for an audiobook she narrated herself, a rare achievement showing that her voice can tell stories as powerfully as any of her performances. From Laurie Strode's Scream to the soft voice in her children's tales, Jamie Lee Curtis has completed a full circle of art, from fear to healing, from victim to inspiration. And the most extraordinary thing of all is this: the more authentically she lives, the brighter she shines. After many years at the peak of fame, Jamie Lee Curtis found the truest piece of her life not on a film set, but in the eyes of a man, Christopher Guest. They didn't meet at a glamorous Hollywood party or on a movie set. Their story began with a strange twist of fate. Jamie saw his picture in a music magazine, him with a guitar, a serious expression, and deep, thoughtful eyes. Amid the glossy images of other artists, that one photo made her stop. Not because of his fame, but because of a feeling, a familiarity, as if she had known him in another life. Soon after, through a mutual friend, they actually met. Their first conversation wasn't loud or showy. It was a quiet connection between two souls who had both been lost once. Christopher, a British director and musician known for his subtle, intelligent humor, and Jamie, a woman who had endured enough pain to understand that peace is the rarest luxury. Both realized they had found in each other a rare stillness amid the noise of the world. In 1984, just a few months after meeting, they got married. A decision that seemed impulsive, but turned out to be the wisest of her life. Their marriage was never decorated by media lights. Christopher was not the kind of man who sought attention, and Jamie was already weary of all that glitter. They chose a quiet life in Los Angeles, filled with music, books, and silent afternoons away from the cameras. But even in that stillness, there were turning points. Jamie battled painkiller addiction for nearly 10 years, and Christopher, calm and steady by nature, became the only wall between her and the abyss. He didn't preach, didn't judge. He simply stayed, silently waiting for her to find her way out of the dark. When Jamie decided to get sober and begin her healing journey, Christopher remained by her side without conditions or praise. It was his patience that taught her that true love doesn't come from grand promises, but from the willingness to stay through the things no one else wants to witness. But when their marriage finally settled into peace, fate tested them once more. Jamie Lee Curtis, a woman who seemed to have everything, discovered she could not have children. For someone who grew up in a broken family, that was not just a physical loss, but a spiritual, wound. She had believed that motherhood might heal what her childhood lacked, but the doctors told her it would never happen. Christopher was silent, but never distant. They cried together, then sat in wordless stillness. For years, they lived with that quiet grief, an emptiness only those who once dreamed of a family can understand. Eventually, they adopted 2 daughters, Annie, who would become a dance choreographer, and Ruby, who lives openly with her true gender identity, fully supported by her parents. That became the kind of family Jamie had longed for as a child. Imperfect, but honest, where everyone is free to be themselves. Still, their marriage wasn't always peaceful. There were years when Jamie was buried in work while Christopher chose solitude to compose. 2 worlds that seemed compatible, but were deeply different. They drifted apart in silence at times, worn down by small misunderstandings. But unlike so many Hollywood couples who give up, they chose to return, because both knew that real loss doesn't come from arguments, but from no longer wanting to speak to each other. Nearly 40 years have passed, and their marriage endures, not because of miracles, but because 2 broken people learned to mend each other with kindness. In interviews, when Jamie speaks of Christopher Guest, she doesn't describe love as legend, but as a place to breathe. A home, she says, the one I never had as a child. And perhaps it is that love that gave Jamie Lee Curtis the courage to stand tall through it all. Fame, loss, and the nameless shadows that once filled her life. When her 2 daughters had grown up, Jamie Lee Curtis's family life entered a new chapter. Quiet, yet filled with inner transformation. The greatest shock did not come from the outside world, but from a private conversation within their peaceful home. In 2021, Ruby, the younger daughter, walked into the living room and told her parents that she was a transgender woman. There was no drama, no tears, only truth and courage. Jamie stayed silent for a long moment, then smiled. She didn't need to understand everything, she only needed to understand one thing. Love requires no conditions. From that moment on, the Curtis Guest family became a symbol of compassion in Hollywood. Jamie supported Ruby not just in words, but through actions. When Ruby got married, Jamie herself officiated the ceremony, hosting it in the garden of their Pacific Palisades home. A private, flower-filled space where love was affirmed through freedom. The image of Jamie in a tailored suit, her eyes glowing with pride as she watched her daughter walk down the aisle in a wedding dress, became an emblem of a new kind of happiness, simple, honest, and unafraid of judgment. However, publicly standing with the LGBTQ+ community brought backlash. Jamie and her family faced criticism and even threats. Some extremists targeted Ruby directly, sending hateful messages. Jamie responded with the calm of someone who had endured far greater losses. She called her family a fortress, a place where they sheltered one another and fought cruelty with kindness. No retaliation, no complaints. Only a steady resolve to protect her daughter by living according to her belief. Everyone deserves to be who they truly are. In the years that followed, Jamie often shared her philosophy of marriage. Simple, yet deeply grounded. She compared it to a bus ride. When the scenery outside the window bores you, don't get off. Stay on, because if you travel a few more stops, the view will change. For her, humor was the glue that held everything together, the thing that helped them endure fatigue, personality differences, and the ever-changing world beyond their doorstep. After nearly 40 years together, Jamie and Christopher never needed grand anniversaries. Their bond lived in the smallest gestures, like Jamie and Ruby dressing up as World of Warcraft characters, Or Jamie accepting a long-running yogurt commercial simply so she could spend more time at home. She once joked that it was the kind of yogurt that makes you go to the bathroom, then burst into laughter, the same laughter that had carried her through crises, turning embarrassment into joy. Jamie's creativity has always intertwined with her sense of motherhood. In 1987, when Annie was still a baby, she invented a disposable diaper with a built-in wipes pocket, a design that was officially patented. It was a small invention, but it revealed how she saw life, turning inconvenience into solutions, using imagination as a way to care and to love. After all the roles, awards, and dazzling lights, Jamie Lee Curtis's true legacy may not rest in Hollywood at all Bordeaux, but in her home itself. A place where love doesn't need to be perfect, only strong enough to weather every storm and still leave room for laughter to echo on cloudy days. But right at the height of her career, one seemingly small mistake opened the darkest chapter of her life. In 1989, Jamie Lee Curtis went into surgery to fix what doctors called inherited eye bags, a simple cosmetic procedure that was supposed to make her look fresher. Afterward, she was prescribed Vicodin, a powerful painkiller. Just one pill, but it was enough to awaken the sleeping addiction that ran in the Curtis bloodline. From that moment, the next 10 years of her life became a double existence. Hollywood star by day, addict by night. Jamie took the pills secretly, hiding them so well that even Christopher had no idea. She controlled her schedule so precisely that she called herself the valedictorian of addicts. Still working, still smiling on red carpets, still giving interviews, but every smile softened by a Vicodin haze. What was meant to ease pain became a warm bath she soaked in for a decade, escaping the loneliness and pressure of fame. Then one day, the breaking point came from something simple: the blunt honesty of a Brazilian friend who lived with her. That day, when Jamie quietly slipped a pill into her mouth, her friend looked her straight in the eye and said, "I see you. You're not living. You're dying." The words hit her like a slap, shattering the wall of denial she had built for years. Around the same time, she read Vicodin, My Vicodin by Tom Chiarella in Esquire, an honest confession about addiction and isolation. The article made Jamie realize the most important truth: she wasn't alone. Eventually, the truth came out in the arms of her family. Her sister, Kelly Curtis, met it not with anger, but with love and empathy, encouraging Jamie to seek recovery. And in 1999, Jamie attended her first recovery meeting, sitting among strangers in a small room where no one cared whether she was a movie star or a failure. It was the first time she said out loud, "I am an addict." The door that opened wasn't to fame, it was to life. From that moment, her journey of sobriety began, and Jamie has since called it the greatest achievement of my life, far beyond any golden statue or award. But life didn't stop testing her. Just a few years into recovery, Jamie lost several people she loved, as if fate were testing her strength to see if she could stay standing. Nicholas Curtis, her half-brother, died of a heroin overdose in 1994 at just 23. Police found beside his body a small packet labeled "Ready to Die," a cruel farewell. His death was a mirror, forcing Jamie to face the very demon she was fighting. A year later, she lost her closest friend, Richard Frank, whom she called her spiritual husband, to AIDS in 1995. And then came Lori Tull, a young woman Jamie considered the daughter of her heart, who died at 20 after a failed heart transplant. 3 deaths in 2 years, 3 wounds in the same place. And Jamie still had to smile for the cameras, pretending nothing had happened. Then came the irreplaceable losses. Janet Leigh, Her mother, the pillar of her childhood, passed away in 2004. In 2009, Robert Brandt, her gentle stepfather and only stable father figure, also died. The two people who made Jamie believe that family still exists were now only memories. And when Tony Curtis, her biological father, died in 2010, the pain took a different shape. He had deliberately removed Jamie from his will. No note, no token, just an erasure written in ink. For her, it was being abandoned a second time, this time by a signature instead of words. Deep down, Jamie carried a shameful memory, a single moment of weakness when she once used cocaine with her father, a moment she never forgot, a warning about the cycle of addiction and the inheritance of trauma. All of those losses, addiction, grief, rejection, did not destroy Jamie Lee Curtis. They transformed her into one of Hollywood's most honest voices. She began to speak openly about fear, harassment, body image, and the youth-obsessed culture that drove so many women to self-destruction. Jamie criticized the cult of forever young, calling extreme cosmetic surgery a genocide of natural beauty. For her, aging was not a curse but a privilege, the clearest proof of survival. By 2025, at 66, Jamie Lee Curtis still hasn't truly stopped. After more than half a century living under the lights and shadows of Hollywood, she has chosen a different rhythm, slower, sober, and meaningful. But slow doesn't mean quiet. Jamie continues to create, to advocate, and to spread compassion, as if age only makes her more unshakable. At the beginning of 2025, Los Angeles faced a devastating wildfire that spread to the Pacific Palisades area, where the Curtis Guest family lives. Their home narrowly escaped the blaze, but hundreds of others lost everything. Jamie not only shared in the community's pain, but donated $1 million to the Rebuilding Fund, calling on other artists to help. Safety is an illusion, but compassion is real, she said in a short speech, a sentence that seemed to sum up her entire life philosophy after years of surviving loss. Beyond charity, Jamie Lee Curtis remains a defining presence in American culture. She graced the August-September 2025 cover of AARP, the magazine, in a feature recounting her journey through addiction, insecurity, and judgment, and her choice to face aging with pride. In the interview, she declared, "Aging is a privilege, not a curse," a statement that defies Hollywood's obsession with wrinkles as if they were worse than lies. Artistically, Jamie returned to the big screen with Freakier Friday, the sequel to Freaky Friday, 2003, which had grossed over $160 million worldwide. 2 decades later, she and Lindsay Lohan reunited as mother and daughter, but this time, instead of swapping bodies, they reflect on motherhood and daughterhood through the lens of time and forgiveness. The film, released in August 2025, is expected to resonate across generations, especially for those who grew up watching Jamie as Tess Coleman. At the same time, Jamie continues appearing on talk shows and panels to champion LGBTQ+ and women's rights. In an interview with El País in August 2025, she stated, "We're going to have to march again, just like we did during the civil rights movement." She spoke about Ruby, her transgender daughter, not as a celebrity, but as a mother who knows that love is the only armor strong enough to withstand hatred. Drawing from her own experience, Jamie has become a powerful public voice for trans rights and personal freedom, despite facing waves of online attacks. By the end of the year, Variety honored Jamie Lee Curtis at its Power of Women 2025 event, recognizing her contributions to film, philanthropy, and social influence. At the ceremony, she wasn't the distant Hollywood icon people might expect, but a simple woman in a white suit, short silver hair, and a radiant smile, a symbol of honesty, courage, and freedom. Beyond the lights and the accolades, Jamie's current life revolves around small things: reading in the garden, writing children's books, practicing yoga, and spending time with Christopher, Annie, and Ruby. For her, happiness is no longer glory. It's waking up in the morning, making coffee, and knowing she's still here, present, loving, and useful. After all the storms she's survived, the Jamie Lee Curtis of 2025 stands as living proof of a simple, profound truth. Light doesn't come from fame. It shines from within when a person learns to live honestly, forgive deeply, and love without fear. If there's one word to define Jamie Lee Curtis's journey, it would be authenticity. Not just on screen, but in every role she's lived. The daughter of legends, the actress, the mother, the wife, the recovered addict, and the woman who refuses to deny her age. She has left her mark through uncompromising honesty. Jamie Lee Curtis's legacy doesn't lie in the golden statues, even though she stood on the Oscar stage in 2023 for Everything Everywhere All at Once, proving that a scream queen can evolve into a true artistic icon at 64. Her real legacy lies in how she turned pain into light for others to follow. From speaking openly about addiction, to challenging impossible beauty standards, to standing proudly by her transgender daughter, every act carries the weight of someone who has walked through the abyss and chosen to return with love. In a Hollywood where fame often survives on illusion, Jamie has chosen the opposite path. She makes films not to maintain status, but to tell stories of connection between mothers and daughters, between people, between the self and compassion. She writes children's books not to expand her brand, but to teach kids that every difference is worthy of love. She lives slowly, ages naturally, and reminds the world that beauty isn't something to buy. It's what remains when you stop being afraid. In many ways, Jamie Lee Curtis has broken the curse of her lineage, a family drenched in both glory and loneliness, success and dependence. She chose to live fully, consciously, and presently. In every conversation, every interview, she reveals a different Jamie. No longer the girl who screamed in the dark, but the woman who learned how to light her own way through the night. At 66, she no longer needs to be seen as a movie star. She simply hopes to be remembered as someone who tried to live kindly. And perhaps that simplicity is what makes her an icon across generations, proof that a person can fall, fail, lose everything, and still rise to live well. If Hollywood is the city of lights, then Jamie Lee Curtis is the one who proved you don't have to shine the brightest to be seen. You just have to be real, and the light will find you. Jamie Lee Curtis has lived an imperfect life, but a whole one. And maybe that's exactly what makes her such a rare symbol in a world built on illusion. What about you? What do you think of Jamie Lee Curtis's journey? Do you believe a person can truly escape their past? Or does the past simply rest, waiting for the moment we're brave enough to face it? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you cherish stories of the real people behind the spotlight, don't forget to follow so you won't miss the next journey.